pastel pencil would not give me the same quality of line that this subtractive method is giving me. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Wet Pastelist. I'm Pastelist Avon Waters. Today I'm going to talk about subtraction, but subtraction in using our art supplies. People who draw, they do a lot of subtraction. They use the eraser and subtract things. Pastelists often forget that subtraction is another tool that they can use. Subtraction takes a little planning. So I'm going to explain how I plan for this particular painting, which is going to be, I hope, somewhat abstract, an abstract landscape. Yeah, have my typical representational things. Let's talk about subtraction. These are some of the colors I plan to use. They're rather bright. I'm going to try to make this between the hills sort of thing abstract. These are the two drawings that I've made. They're a little larger than before, but I'm trying to get basically light trees and dark trees. And I've made some pencil sketches for some of the places that I will try to etch away the pastel and get some of the smaller little twigs and undergrowth among the bigger trees. But one of these two designs I'll probably use, but I'll end up with darker and lighter trees and then the trees that I etch in. I want this to be very bright. It's the sense of where you find two hills that kind of come together, and there's kind of just a gentle, almost pastoral area that goes up between the two hills. Today I'm using a 12 by 12 that I've prepped with clear gesso with a little dab of Mars Black acrylic paint added to it. It doesn't take very much Mars Black in that clear gesso, and there's some skips and jumps, and that's fine. Let me show you my color selections. As you see, I have some bright colors that are unusual. I'm trying a little different palette today, but I'm going to try to create this sense of this hill, two hills, and by using colors. But I want to use this black, and I want to try to do some etching. This week I've experimented with using sharp tools after the pastel is done and creating, scraping away the color and getting some of this black to show through as like twigs and branches and the random chaos that I love in some of these woodland scenes. So that's what we're going after today, is get that chaos, and we're going to do subtractive methods. If I'm going to use this black to my advantage, what I need are lighter colors. So my palette I'm choosing today is unusual. Let me show you that palette. But it's basically a lot of lighter, now I'll switch, and I'll show you the drawing here. Here's the drawing I'm using. Here's the color study I'm using. The color study, as you can see, has a lot of the bright colors. That's so when I etch away with a sharp instrument at the end of this painting to show some of that black underpainting, that I will get those dark twigs and things to contrast with these lighter colors. Now these are very bright colors. I'm trying to see if I can be a little more abstract in this. Who knows? Before we're done, it could turn into more realism. I have no clue. But you can see I'm not pressing real hard. I am trying to get, this is a black I'm putting on here now. Even though I've got black on there, if I decide to use this as a competition piece, which probably I won't, since I'm just still experimenting, but hey, you never know. Sometimes your experiments turn out really well. So I want to get some pastel ground on there, so I've got something to scrape away. And I'm not too concerned about the little white skips and jumps. It'll just add some sparkle. My experiments earlier in the week showed that it doesn't have to be solid black. And I'm not going to put those trees in there, those vertical trees that you saw. They're going to be kind of maybe a yellow-orange or a red-orange, and they'll go up through here with the dark trees. But those trees will get added to this. Becomes really kind of a field study, color field study, but using irregular shapes, less like Mark Rothko and more like other color field painters that used irregular shapes. And again, the reason I'm not pressing real hard is we're going to push this in with with some pipe insulation and push it into some of those grooves and things. So I'm just trying to get some of the basic colors that I had. Here's my color study again. You'll see those basic colors that you know, with the violets and the blues forming the two hills. I am going to put because I want this to be a bright sky with this kind of a red-orange or something. That's what I'm thinking right now. And because of that, I'm going to add some blue in there so that it will gray down and not be so bright. And I apologize, I've got somebody moving out of a studio above me or something today, so every time I seem to want to talk, they want to move a piece of furniture or roll something across the studio floor. So bear with me. One day we'll have a nice quiet video. I use some blues down in there. I'm going to get a little warmer with some violets in this middle ground. And then I'm going to switch to a lighter violet because as the hills go off into the distance and get closer to the sky, we have just a little bit more of that violet haze that you get in landscapes. So although that it's, I'm trying to head a little bit abstract, and again, I don't know if it'll be that way by the time I'm done, I still want to use the principles of space. I want to use this as things go off into space, we get a little more blues and a little more violet in the light, even though it might be an abstract by the time we're done. Now I'm going to stick that orange over. Remember we stuck some blue in there? I'm going to stick some of that over there, and we should get some graying down effect on some of that. And again, a landscape principle. As these two hills come together, we'll go off into the distance. Perspective tells us that whatever this shape is in the center, whether it's a valley being lit up or whatever, it gets narrower as it goes to the horizon. I get a little bit of this. This is a fluorescent color, but I'm mixing it intentionally, and you see it's got enough white in it to create a tint to there. A little more orange. We don't want isolated colors. And now it's just time for me to blend some of these colors in and create bigger shapes. I'll use my handy pipe insulation for that. Let me blend this in. It's just going to be a noisy, scratchy time here. We'll fast forward or just skip to the end product. As you can see, we've created some larger shapes. We've been able to fill in some of those skips and jumps. What's left doesn't concern me too much because this will now become the base for which we'll build the colors on top of. I'm going to scrape here just to give you a sense, in case you don't watch to the end, a sense of this is just a construction screw. Any piece of metal that's not too sharp to dig away the not just the color. This is kind of rounded and it's dull, so when I press, I will be scraping away pastel, but not pressing so hard that I'm scraping away, well, let's hope, pressing so hard that I'm scraping away that black clear gesso. As you can see how this will, at the end, leave some of these marks among some of the mark making that are bigger trees that I use. These will make those little trees, and you can make branches go off, you can make circles, you can do anything you want with it. There's a little closer view of what's happening with that tool. And again, these aren't going to stay there. They might show through because I have scratched them, but I should still be able to cover those up. If not, I might, because I just demoed this, I might have to put on some clear gesso. But for right now, these should cover up. I just wanted to show you, I wouldn't normally do this at this stage. I would do this at the end because I just wanted to demo for you how this will process and what we're headed towards as one of the end processes. And that's why we have those black, that black gesso just like anything else, we create the bigger shapes, and now we're going to use different reds and families of reds and oranges and yellows. Add variation color in these bigger shapes. This is a much darker red, a darker value. This is closer to the value of, this is closer to a 3 value. It's a lot darker, but again, just as you would construct another painting, I try to break up the bigger space into smaller spaces by changing the value, changing the color, keeping the color family of different reds and red oranges in there. I'm going to break up that lower edge of the sky. Take a look at what happens here. I had some orange underneath there and this yellow goes under, but I don't press so hard. And I'm getting those skips and jumps. So we are getting some layering going on. Take a look at my videos on layering. I've got one special that's just a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And you'll see how layering and the way you handle these pastels, one over top of another, will create a vibration in that layering. So that's what we're after at this particular point. Now, my compositional design here, I'm trying to get, I'm using a centered sort of compositional design, but I'm trying to make it work by keeping this shape and this shape different with a third shape in between. So I'm kind of doing a 3 spot also, 1, 2, and 3. So I'm conscious of that as I'm painting this also. Ever so lightly with this kind of really pale yellow-orange. And remember, this is that paler, whatever these turn out to be at the edge of this one hill, it's going to intrude that sky a little bit. I'm back to the black. You can see it's kind of turned into a gray when we rubbed it in. Now we're going to use some mark making to create some really darks in one area here. And I'm not going to have this much black show through, but I do want to go over this black with another color hue. And so I'm trying to create a kind of a wedge shape going off this way, and then I'll have one that repeats over here, but a different size. As I didn't finish that last statement, as I paint over this black with color hues, when you add a color hue over a black, or you add a black to a color hue, you get a shade. So that's what we're ultimately going to do, is just leave a little of the black with, but it will mix with some of these other colors and create a dark shade to a medium shade. Now I'm going in here with the blue, and you can see when I go over that with the blue will come up into that light violet and create some shapes and some sizes, but when I go into the blacks and the reds, it creates a shade of blue that is totally different than the intensity and the chroma of the actual stick itself. So that's why learning color theory is important, and practicing some of these techniques with on little squares of paper, little pieces of paper, practicing mixing the colors you've got into whites, into complementary colors. All that practice will give you a lot of knowledge that you can pull upon as you get into your paintings. Don't just learn your color theory on a finished painting. Let the color theory become part of what you pick up outside of the experiments you do while you are painting a painting. You don't want all that knowledge to come just from making mistakes or accidental successes on paint. That's always great when you have those accidental successes. Making that knowledge become part of something that you don't learn, so to speak, on the job, but as experimentation with little scraps of paper and things. That is very important to your development too. I'm going to see if I can drag this over in that yellow, and yeah, see, I'm getting, this was a red that I put this red-orange over, and I got some nice things in there. Now I'm putting it over a yellow, and it creates a totally different effect, because my goal here is to have really bright red in the center, this kind of two shapes here, as kind of a background to those trees that will eventually go in here. This goes to thinking ahead and planning ahead. A little warmer violet next to this red. I've got almost everything covered again that we wiped off with the pipe insulation. When I get to the point where I've covered everything, I may start putting some of those trees in there, so I can start looking at the spaces between the trees. And I'm thinking of where trees might go. You notice I'm making some vertical marks here. Now I'm covering up that lighter violet, but I'll put that lighter violet over the top of it, and I think I'm going to come out with something that's very successful as far as the color, in color up in there. Got almost everything covered again. This lighter violet up in here in some places, over that darker violet. And again, I'm getting a much nicer color over that darker violet than when I put just the violet up along this edge by itself. I'm going to experiment with these three oranges. This one's kind of looks more like a yellow orange, but it's what I had in that sky up here before I put the red orange over it. And I'm going to see if I can't experiment and try to get some of these trees that I want this color down in here. Now they'll have to be a different color once they reach the color up in there. So let's see if I can get some of those trees. Trying to make my base and my trees a little different. I'll have to work to make sure that all these trees don't end up the same thickness, but for right now, kind of like this one tree to end and not go off the edge. These others, I think I want to go off the edge. Now the yellow is showing up against the red, but if I put this red over it, maybe I can, one of these red oranges, I can get this to be bright. Not every tree in a woodland is the same. They're not all dark and they're not all light. So that's again why we're planning to go back with some of that. Look at birch trees and even some maples, especially a silver maple. It has lighter bark than some of its relatives, and depending on whether there's dew on the ground or whatever, you get different colors in the tree trunks. This is a black that I'm wanting to go over it with this blue. Again, I'm trying to make a shade by mixing this blue with the black. And it's going to disappear down here, getting the base of the trees to show up well using this blue. Not quite what I'm looking for. This is that value 3 going over those oranges. Maybe I can get the color red that I want in these trees. At minimum, I'm getting some nice blending with that kind of yellow orange that was on there. More abstract than I normally do. And I don't know until I stick it on my fermentation wall or I get it done, whether it's just going to be an experiment or whether it's going to be something that I'll want to pursue. But I try these things. This is where the fun begins. I can use this yellow orange in here in between the tree shapes, break up the space. I can create interesting smaller shapes within the bigger shapes. Remember, this is that thing, whatever it is, that light between the two hills coming down between them. Just a little light here and there, and we'll see what happens. Alright, from this point on, I'm just going to experiment, break up these shapes. I'll stick it on fast forward here, and then when I get ready to do the big reveal with the tools, I will come back here, we'll put it on regular motion, and we'll see if we can't show you how using this black base, we can create some interesting things by subtraction. Subtraction in a lot of mediums is important. So many pastelists forget that they can paint by subtraction. A lot of drafts people doing figurative drawing, they know how using an eraser is a great way to subtract. And so it's really something you don't want to forget. Subtraction is super, super important, and a great little technique to sometimes adopt. Okay, let me go fast forward. My handy construction screw. It's dull and rounded, so it's going to dig in and scrape off some of this pastel. I'm going to think about how the trees grow, and based on my plein air study out and my photo resources that I've got, I know that there's an undergrowth among trees out in the open woods. So at this particular point, I'm going to try to see if I'm going to go up because it's easier. Once you start up, if you get it too thick or too much pressure, you let off, then you got a thick top and a narrow bottom. So it's good because of trees. I'm going to go up. There, you can see I'm able to get some of that. Now because this tree is behind this tree, but in front of this tree, I can have this mark go over this tree, but any limbs have to come behind this tree. So you can't just start making marks and expect them to make sense. You have to think about where that branch is going out. That tree there is behind these trees, but look at that. Just wonderful little branches there. And as I said, this dark tree I'm creating is in front of this red tree, the smaller one. So I can go over those branches and I can create undergrowth. Using the subtractive method, I'm able to create more interest. I could never get a pastel, or even a pastel pencil would not give me the same quality of line that this subtractive method is giving me. And what's nice is up in the sky, as trees go up, until I added this, it just looks like a bunch of sticks going up in the air. So I'm able to get some branches, and the branches can come off of some of these other trees. And by going over in one spot, I can create a thicker tree wherever I need to. This is a little bit of a close-up, and you can see all those dark lines are from the scratching using this construction screw, the head of it. So you can see I can create a lot more interest and start to point this and point the viewers, even though I've used abstract colors and I've used kind of an abstract idea, there is a certain element of representationalism there. But starting with a dark ground and planning your picture a little bit, you can create some of these dark areas. You could use any color. I've done this prior to experimenting with black. I've done this with my white grounds, and that's what gave me the idea. I actually used a palette knife, and it was too fine, so I experimented and found that this screw head is about right for me. I'm sure there's some other tools that I'll find that I like to make broader branches, different sized tree trunks, but this is really using the subtractive method and not forgetting that it is there to help you. So there we have it, the subtractive method with a little bit of abstract color, concept of two hills coming in with some light or light hitting the ground between those hills. and creating a little bit of a kind of a pathway for our eye and composition. A different size shape here, different size shape here. I've got two compositional elements going on. I've got the centered subject, which is going to be our light. I've got the 3-spot. One large piece here, medium size, and a smaller piece here. So 1, 2, 3 spot is also used in this. Well, that's it. I hope you got something out of that. Remember, subtraction can really help create some interesting areas. It's maybe not what you want to use all the time, but I'm having fun with it. Once I started using and found the tools that work for me and found the underpainting with using black, white works, other colors work, you can have some fun with this. So until next time, everybody, subtract away and we'll have another topic for you. Bye-bye.